Okay, so now let's continue. As we spoke in the other moment, our idea here is to let me just remove this bunch of stuff. Projects. Let me just get a fresh. Okay, now for sure this is the right one. Let's come here. Great. Now the idea is to get all the data possible to create the Docker stuff. So let's podium dot. Okay, so let's start from here. Okay. Now here on databases we need a little bit more information probably. And at first let's just take a look on the Docker to create the virtual VFS. Here I'm thinking to use user ID and database instance ID. Okay, and DBS. Let's just DBS. Okay, so that way we'll use our all our client databases on DBS. So username, let's just user ID. Great. So for each step I'll need a little bit of information, and for each step I'll need a verification. So here we can echo, and with this we'll see if the code runs successfully. It should return 0. So okay, let's test. And the user ID, database instance ID, let's use here. This will be the user ID. Oops. This will be the user ID. This will be the database instance ID, and let's see if it will work. So let's come here, close this bunch of stuff, open a new one. And my user ID will be 10 and my database instance ID will be 20. Okay, so sudo, this should be run with root, so let's sudo su 10, 20. Okay, all zeros. So if I look at here, great, you mount 1020, mount dash A, this is not here. So if we look at our diagram, draw.io, open existing diagram, let me just home and the project is diagrams here. Create the local ISO. Yeah, I know that's just not on FS tab, but let's just verify the entire process. So here we don't have the create directory. Yeah, so let's just delete these and then create db-dir. Okay, so here we have the database directory creation, and then we'll create a local ISO. Here we have an extra step. Make file system on ISO. Yeah, so create directory, create the ISO, make a file system, and here we need to put it in the FS tab. So let's get just some data here. Okay, echo FS tab. Great, so here's not a VG. We're talking about this ISO on this directory. We're using ext4. Yeah, great. Now let's use the same command. 11, 21. You mount dash A. You mount. Let's you mount this again. There's no, it's not here anymore. Yeah, it was modified, but it is mounting. So great. And we also need to systemctl daemon reload, and here we need to verify also. Let's just echo here just to break some lines. and this will be our steps. So okay, now let's save this file and let's run this one more time. Great, no warnings. df mount dash a. Yep, no warnings. Great. Let's just remove this. Okay, great. Copy, paste, copy, paste. Great. And now we only need the user and the database ID to create everything. My idea is to use each command. If it is successful, make some sort of log. Yeah, let's just 1 and 2. I think that's 1 and 2. Dev, no, I don't want to see this. Or I want to. Yeah, would be great to have these logs. Would be great. So date. Let's put the date here. And var log PGaaS log. This can be 1 or 2. Great, so now we can just get the standard error and the standard output. Yeah, this will not give us an error. Great. Now we can monitor all this stuff happening and see the times. So let's test it again. Yeah, we have only zeros, and if we cat var log pgaas.log, yeah, we see the dates and what's happening. Great. And we also want to know the size, so we want this also. The size, by default it will be 100, but probably the client can define more if it wants. Great. So Just verifying, yep. And the size will be 300. Okay. Yeah, not the best date stuff, but yeah, it works. You mount. Okay. Great. And now I want to split this in minor scripts. So here I want to step create virtual file system step 1.sh. We don't need this. Step 2.sh. Step 3.sh. Step 4. Step 5. Step 6. Okay, so let's see. First, log the date and create the directory. Second, log the date and create the file. The ISO. Third, log the date and make file system on the file. Fourth, record it on FS tab. systemctl daemon reload and mount the ISO on the directory. So if I create virtual file system underline step 1 2 3 4 5 6 .sh, and we'll have 10 20 30. So I should get, let me just check the execution permissions. chmod plus x create vfs. Great, so if I create vfs.sh, great, df working. Okay, so this is what we want, steps that we can monitor. And def.h. Yeah, 30 megs. Great. So I think that at first that's about it. Let me just put these off. One, two, and three. Now I need the next step, that is make client database instance docker compose file.sh. So the client docker compose file will be this one. So let's use Postgres latest for now, and we want the port, so let's get the port. Password, let's get the password. Username, database instance ID. Let's use username as 1, database instance ID as 2, port as 3, password as 4. So username, database instance ID, okay, yeah, let me put a 10th, and RAM, let's use 5. CPU, let's be 5, and RAM 6. So to execute this will be user ID, database instance ID, port, password, CPU, RAM. Okay, so that's a little bit about it. And echo on var dbs, and here will be user ID, so 1, database instance ID will be 2, and the file will be PG client with Postgres. That's okay. 1, 2 dot YAML. Great. So here is the, let's rename, let's remove it, rename, create docker compose file, and this create docker compose file should be executed just like this. chmod plus x asterisk.sh. Okay, so create docker, create docker user database instance. Let's just paste this user database instance port password. So user database instance port password CPU RAM 256. And first we need to make something too, just like this, but if we need to regenerate the file, it will regenerate. So cut var dbs 20 seems to be okay. Seems to be okay. So now we can create. We do this in another moment. Let's just use okay, so create vfs.sh user ID, maybe ID, and size. Okay. Now we can just start the container. Start container. Bring client, bring PG up. And start container. Use. Okay. So docker compose -f, and the file will be this. .sh up-d and start container.sh and user ID database instance ID. So this should work. Let's check if it will work. chmod plus x asterisk.sh create start container 1020. Systemctl start to Docker, and it will download the image and it will start it. Size now let's start logging this. Great. This is just file creation, but yeah. And let's just get the beaver again. UI not working. Yeah, sure. A little bit buggy. Let me try to open this again. Probably not working properly. Okay. But why? Okay, let's just try to connect on something. Okay, probably not possible. Let's just trust that this container is working. So Docker PGaaS. Yeah, it's running and seems to be running fine. And now we need to do the opposite. The bring PG down. To bring Postgres down is easier, I think. Okay, we need these, but will be the opposite. So yeah, new file, stop container .sh, down, no need for -d, and then remove container .sh, docker compose, docker container, but we'll need to save the container ID. I have a parameter, let's just ask ChatGPT. With docker compose, how do I stop and delete a container from a YAML file? Uh, remove containers volumes, and images. Just volume. Goes down. When I bring it down, the container is already removed. I don't need it's different of docker stop and docker start. So it will be removed. Yeah. Let me just test. Cat. Yeah. No issues with this. We can just look on this in another moment. Let's just close this. So now it will just stop the container, no need to remove. And then we need to remove mount localizer from a fast tab. So remove local ISO from fstab.sh. And here I don't remember how to find a line and delete only this line. So let's ask ChatGPT. How to identify a line on a file and remove only this line. Shell script only. Edit. Pattern want to find. Delete. Okay. Etsy fs tab. Great. So let me create a use here. It will be stop user ID database instance ID, and the pattern is, let it go to probably the fs tab. Yeah, the pattern to match, but as we have bars we need to backslash it. No, this is correct, and here I need to use this. Great. name, user ID, database instance ID. Let's test this stop container. Great. Now and it's really not hit anymore. Great. So these both worked. Now I need only, let's check if I didn't leave anything behind. Umount, delete, yeah, so now I need to umount. Umount vfs.sh, and this virtual file system, let me, I need to umount. This is a little bit tricky. So I created this directory. I create the ISO into this directory. Let's use /data for more responsible stuff. Yeah, the ISO will be on the directory itself. I'll create the FS on the ISO. I will mount the ISO on the data file system. Reload and mount on the data file system. So I will stop container, no problem. But on the create docker compose file, I'm using /data, so that's correct. So yeah, great, remove from the FS tab, bring the container down, and now we need to umount var dbs 1 2 data echo. Yes, so let's just get this. Great, so umount. Okay, now you mounted. Now I need to delete the local ISO. Delete. Okay, so now I need to delete the ISO. Let's just rename it. Delete ISO.sh. And on this create virtual file system, I have this. This is the full path for the ISO. So rm-f. And same thing as here. Umount, delete ISO. Okay, great. Uh, so stop container, remove from fast tab, umount, vfs.sh, and the same stuff, and delete iso.sh and the same stuff. Great. Now I just need to delete also the database directory. Here I have the first step is to make this directory. So the last step will be remove database dirs.sh, and here will be rm.rf. Great. This will happen. So let me just copy this, remove database, and then we can just delete this, remove db, remove db. Okay. Seems to be good. Let's test docker ps. Bring up. Let me just change this use for rename, and this use will be all.sh, chmod plus x asterisk.sh, and on this all.sh I will have database instance ID. So database user ID, database instance ID, size, port, password, CPU, $6, and RAM, that will be $7. So let's just change it for dollar user ID, dollar database instance ID, dollar port, dollar pass, dollar CPU, dollar RAM, dollar size. Okay, so now I should run this that way. All, and the user ID will be 100, database instance ID will be 200, size will be 112, port will be 1234, password will be Postgres, CPU will be 0.1, and run will be 256. Bunch of errors. Probably I need to use the export word here. Let me make it a little bit easier. $1. $2. $3. $4. $5. $6. $7. Okay, great. Now let's try it out. Everything okay, Docker? PGaaS seems to be running well. Bring down chmod plus x *.sh. So here let's just and here on all.sh let me just for identification purposes, and also here on for identification purposes all.sh. So user ID, database instance ID. Probably I just need this both. $1, $2, and yep. Great. So hundred to 100. The last one were with number 1. Remove df docker ps so cat var log pg as a service we had. Yeah, got it. Thankfully we have the logs saved to now it will work. So let's docker compose -f bring up no bring up all .sh. I can just get my latest comment. Okay, everything good. All .sh 100 to 100. Okay, great, work it. Now we have these both implementations done. So next I need to create one client, and this client will get all the informations from the web interface, and then will create or will delete, and this all will depend on the client structure. So here I want to set CPU, RAM, and disk. By default I will leave that way, so let me just come here on source, not server, interfaces, templates. So create, let me create another comment here. By default 0.1 CPU, 128 megs of RAM, and 100 meg of disk. And whenever I click on create, database create, I need to create a task, and this task need to spawn this bring up here, but I'll do step by step, verify if it have worked, and if yes, then return success. That's what I need to do, but let's do it in another moment. Okay, so yeah, let me just commit all this, git add dot. Okay, git add dot git commit -m, and here is the automated Docker container creation and deletion. Okay, copy, paste. Probably I'm not authenticated. Yeah, probably yes. Me admin. Git push gh auth login. Okay. Right. So now PG as a service, and here we are. So see you next time. We're finished for today.